Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about shapes. I know we touched base on this last week, so what we're going to do today is we're going to review the shapes that we learned last week. We're going to talk about a couple new shapes that we introduced this week, and then we're going to put our shapes together to create our own creation. So first we're going to start with looking at a book that we discussed last week just so we can review the shapes that we have already learned. This book is called I Can Make Shapes. I can make lots of shapes. I can make a square. I can make a triangle. I can make a rectangle. I can make an oval. I can make a circle. I can make a house. Now I want you guys to look at this and see what our friend here did with the shapes. It is a house, but if you look a little bit closer, you can see that it's made up of all the different shapes that we learned about last week. We can see the square, the rectangles, here's some circles, triangle for the roof, and an oval for the window. What can you make with shapes? So that's our activity today. First, I'd like to also introduce our shapes that we talked about earlier in the week that are not in our book. We're going to draw them up on the board here. It's a little hard to see with the glare, but first of all we have square. So square can be, in its simplest form, defined as a figure with 4 straight, even sides. So with a square, it's very important to make each of the sides the same length, or the closest that you possibly can. Triangle is a 3-figured side with 3 angles. So 1, 2, 3. Circle is a circular shape. From the center point, every area on the circle has to be the same measurement from the center. So if you draw a dot in the middle, should be equal. An oval, on the other hand, is kind of like a circle. It's a circular shape, but it's elongated, kind of like an egg. Now, a heart I just put in there for fun. That's not really a shape that we've discussed, but everybody knows how a heart looks. It starts at a point, comes down to a point, and it has 2 rounded tops. A rectangle is like a square, except for the sides are not equal. One is usually longer than the other. It still has 4 straight sides. A rhombus also has 4 straight sides, but the angles are not quite 90 degrees, and we'll learn more about that another time. A rhombus is actually the correct term that we use for diamonds. So everybody knows what a diamond shape looks like. That's a rhombus. And then a hexagon, that's one of our trickier ones that we talked about a little bit this week, and we'll get more in depth with it. Does anybody remember what a hexagon is? How many sides does it have? It has 6 sides. So that's sometimes a little bit tricky to draw. So a trick that I learned is to first draw a long skinny X, and then draw a line down the middle, and then you can connect each side and then delete or scribble out your snowflake that you just made. A little bit like that. So as you could see with the house activity in the book, you can make lots of things using shapes, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be making monsters. So everybody is going to have their own unique monster. You can make it however you want. You can make it scary. You can make it funny. It's going to be individually yours. So I actually have 2 examples today to show you that they can be very different, and it's okay. First, this is my first monster. And this is my second monster. So they're very different, but they are both made up of lots of different shapes. So on everybody's tables, there's going to be some materials. First, we have the big shapes. The big shapes are going to be the body. So each student should pick one shape. So if you want a rhombus, that would be fine. If you want a square, that would be perfect. So just whatever shape you want is what you get. And there are limited colors, so if you see a color of a shape that you want and is not at your table, you can always ask your neighbors if you can have one of their shapes. And then everybody's going to also have a glue stick. This glue stick goes on the paper. Doesn't go on the table, doesn't go on your fingers or your friends. Keep it on the paper. And then everybody's also going to have a variety of little shapes. So you can have a little bit of fun with this if you want. For instance, this is a circle like we talked about, but I didn't really want my mouth to be a circle. So what I did is I cut it in half. You can fold it in half, or if you're comfortable with the scissors, you can use the scissors to cut it in half like I did to create a half circle mouth. That's what I did. That's not what you have to do, but if you want to do it, that's fine. So just be creative with it. There's going to be longer shapes that you can use for the arms and legs if you want. You can put teeth. There are small triangles. There are small rectangles and squares, so however you want to do it, that would be fine. And then when we're done making our shapes, our monsters, we're going to talk about what shapes are in our monsters. So we'll stick with this guy for now. What shape is the body? It is a rhombus because there's 4 equal sides, but if we turned it this way, it doesn't really look like a square because the angles are different. So it's almost like it was a square, but somebody squeezed it out a little bit. So that's a rhombus. So how many other rhombuses do you see on my shape? I don't really see any other rhombuses on my monster. So I'm going to say that my monster has just one rhombus. So we'll put the number 1 right here. Let's go with squares next. I don't really see squares because this kind of looks like a square, but it's a little bit longer on one side, so I'm going to guess that that's not a square. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what shape you might have used, so you can also flip it back because you see how my leg is a little bit hidden. So if I turn it back, I can see, oh, that was a rectangle. So I'm going to say that there are 0 squares on my monster. Triangles, I'm going to say that there are 2. His feet are triangles. Circle, that can be a little tricky because, of course, like we already talked about, my circle was cut in half. So I'm going to focus on the eyeballs first. We have 1, 2, 3 eyeballs, and inside the eyeballs there's 1, 2, 3 more circles. So that's 6 circles just with the eyeballs. And I'm going to go ahead and say that the mouth is also a circle. So that will be 7 total. I don't think I used any ovals, so I'm going to say 0 for oval. Heart, I didn't use it on this monster, but I did on the other one, but that doesn't count, so we're just going to say 0 for heart. Rectangle, of course, the 2 hands, those are the easy ones, 1, 2. As you can see, I have a little eyebrow up there. That's going to be our 3rd one. And also, each of the limbs, the arms and legs, those are rectangles too. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to say 7 rectangles. And I didn't use any hexagons in this shape, so we're going to say 0. And actually, this is the tricky part of this assignment because I just realized that I forgot something. So does anybody know what shape I forgot to count? We got the eyeballs. We got the actual shape of the body. We forgot the teeth. The teeth are triangles too. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth. And we're going to add that with our 2 feet. So 5 plus 2, we actually have 7 triangles. So if you make a mistake the first time, that's okay, because teachers make mistakes too. It happens. So as we can see, I will post up my little monster guy here so we can take a closer look at what shapes are in it. We decided that my monster has 0 squares, 7 triangles, 7 circles, 0 ovals, 0 hearts, 7 rectangles, 1 rhombus, and 0 hexagons. So you guys can write down how many shapes your monster has, and then we'll talk about it. And here you go, because it's a little bit hard to see. But that's it. Hope you learned a lot.